Hello, this is Andrea Del Priori, and in this video I would like to focus on red flags to identify during a job interview. So I've been on a lot of job interviews and I've had some trouble identifying these red flags, and at times I have taken jobs where the red flags did come back to haunt me. So I'd like to share some of those red flags with you, some of my personal experiences, and hopefully that'll help you identify those red flags and make a decision for yourself. So firstly, let's talk about before the actual interview. Number one, if the job has been posted for a long time, so over a month, going into 2 months or longer, or if you see that the job is continuously reposted, so over the course of time it's been taken down and it's been reposted again. So this can signal a number of things. Perhaps there are a lot of changes going on within the institution. Maybe they hired someone and it didn't work out because of some sort of dysfunction within the company culture. Maybe there's a high turnover. There could be a number of reasons that are not so great. Number two, if they're rushing to get you started, so they want you to come in the same day or the next day, and they just seem like there's some sort of fire or pressure or emergency, that is definitely a red flag. Why are they so eager? What's the rush? Number three, if the job description says that they're looking for someone who's a great multitasker, someone who could wear many hats, or if you notice buzzwords like we're looking for a rock star or a self-starter, these could signal a lot of not so great things as well. So perhaps they're looking for someone to actually do the work of 2 or 3 people. Maybe they're a little unrealistic if they're looking for a rock star. I mean, how much of the population are rock stars? It's not really realistic. Number 4, if they keep rescheduling the interview, if they're late for the interview, or if they're unprepared for the interview. So that pretty much goes without saying. It's inconsiderate, or it at least shows that they're disorganized, or perhaps the leadership is not really so concerned with the people underneath them trying to schedule these interviews, or perhaps they're just not so concerned with you and your schedule. When I was on an interview where it was actually a faculty chair during the interview kept saying, "Oh, I don't have your resume in front of me. Oh, I don't have your resume in front of me." Well, why not? I mean, did you want me to, I don't understand. Do you want me to read off my resume to you? What, you're not prepared? Yes, you're the faculty chair and a very prestigious position, but you should be prepared. I don't understand what you're expecting me to do. And I felt as though I was at a disadvantage because they're unprepared and I don't understand how I'm supposed to talk about my experience when you haven't even looked at my resume. Next up, let's talk about during the actual interview. Number 1, if they say we're like one big happy family, red flag for sure. Work is not your family, and it's not healthy for a workplace to consider themselves a family. And I've seen that actually at a lot of places that were dysfunctional. You have, or a lot of us ideally have our own families, and we would like to spend time with them. So if the workplace is calling themselves your family, they may think that you owe them extra time, extra effort, and some things that really should not be going on in the workplace. Number 2, if they keep interrupting you, or it seems like they're not listening, they're asking questions that show you that they're not listening, that is a major red flag, and one that I have seen as well. Number 3, if they brag about working all the time. And this is a big one, especially in the American culture where we're very proud to work hard and pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. But going into the modern workforce today, and as things over time are growing and progressing, we don't want to work late at night. We don't want to work on the weekends, unless it's a flexible schedule where it actually fits our lifestyle and we have that option, but we don't want to work from 8:30 a.m. until 10 p.m. at night and then have to work Saturday and Sunday as well. It's not healthy. Studies show that you're not more productive. You're so exhausted, you're actually less productive. And what kind of life is that? So if you find that they're bragging about that during the interview, it's definitely a red flag. Or if they're bragging about other strange things that really are not something to brag about. If it's a very long process, and I've experienced this more than once, I'll give you an example. I had Teams interviews. I had about maybe 5 or 6, and 2 of those were just check-ins. However, I didn't realize it was just like a 2-minute or 5-minute check-in. They didn't explain that to me. So I'm coming prepared for an interview. I don't know what kind of questions they're going to ask me. I had to do my homework about the company, refresh my memory, review my STAR technique and my examples I wanted to share, get all dressed up, and it causes a little bit of excitement or anxiety sometimes. I didn't really appreciate that when I got on the Teams call and they're saying, oh, we're just checking in, wanted to give you an update, we want you to meet with this person, we want you to meet with that person. And then I'm having 3 other interviews, meeting with different people individually, which can be nice. If it's not a group, it can be less overwhelming. However, the maximum should really be a total of 3 interviews. 2 should be fine, but sometimes 3. And then in addition, with this example that I'm sharing with you, I had to do some work, written work to demonstrate a PIP, a performance improvement plan example, and then I had to do a training presentation on top of all of that. So it was a little ridiculous. It kind of shows that they're indecisive, or maybe they really don't like you that much and they're just kind of stringing you along, or they're waiting for another candidate to see when that candidate is available. It's inconsiderate, it's inappropriate, unprofessional, and it's not necessary. They're not really thinking about your time. And it's exhausting. It takes a lot of energy. So again, best practice, maximum of 3, 2 should be fine. If they're asking for multiple work samples as well, so maybe 1 work sample is fine, and you want to add your watermark and put your name on your work. And if they have a problem with that, that's definitely a red flag. So I tend to do maybe 1 training presentation, and that's perfectly fine. But if they're asking me to do multiple things for them or send them multiple samples, it's definitely a red flag. It kind of seems like they want to get ideas from me, but they don't actually want to pay me for it. Next, if they are bad-mouthing anyone, so it could be a former employee, it could be other candidates, other employees, anyone. They should not be saying negative things about anyone on the interview. I had an interview where the person interviewing me was showing some concern because there was a former employee who looked good on paper, but they ended up not being so great on the job. So I was a little confused about why they're sharing that with me. It's kind of an internal concern to share with their colleagues amongst themselves. I was a little confused if they thought that I was like that as well. So it was uncomfortable, it was unprofessional, and a red flag. Number 7, asking irrelevant or inappropriate questions. So this is a business meeting. It should be focused on the job and the tasks and professional experience, academic experience. They shouldn't be asking you, oh, if you were stuck on a desert island, what would you do? Or something ridiculous. If a train is going at 100 miles an hour and there are 7 apple trees, I don't know. Some of these interviewers try to get creative, I guess, or they're trying to test you psychologically. I don't know. It's inappropriate, unprofessional. And if they are looking for a psychological evaluation, they would not go about it in that way. It's not the appropriate way. Number 8, body language. I once was on an interview. It was a virtual interview, and I noticed one of the people looked unhappy. She had her arms crossed. She seemed bored, and she was kind of just like, had an attitude, or at least that's what I perceived about her. But I let it go, and I also used my logic that, well, this person isn't going to be my manager or isn't in my direct department. Well, I started that job, I got that job, and that person was a problem. They were very, to say the least, unpleasant, and I had to work with their department often. And it was a very negative experience. So you want to take into account body language and your intuition as well if you're getting a bad vibe or a bad feeling from someone. Definitely listen to that. Number 9, if their responses to your questions are vague, they're not really answering your question, they don't really know the answers, or they're not really telling you they're going to find out the answers. If they're inconsistent, so if you're getting different responses from different people, and it's okay to ask the same questions to different people, especially if it's multiple interviews. I have done that. I wanted to know about the person who would be my manager, understandably. Some of us have had not so great experiences with managers, and we want to make sure that we're working under someone who is going to treat us professionally. So I asked, and the response was, well, you met him, didn't you ask him? Red flag, excuse me. Not a good sign. Also, if they're disingenuous. So I asked about the company culture, and the person responded, oh, everyone is so nice here. Kind of wishy-washy and idealist and unrealistic. You know, everyone can't be nice. I mean, there's always someone who's not the nicest. It's just a generic, canned response, and it's not genuine. Number 10, microaggressions. So microaggressions can be very small and sometimes hard to pinpoint and pick up, but these are inappropriate things to say and hurtful things to say about race, gender, socioeconomic status, ability, religion, sexual orientation, any subscribed status really. And I was on an interview once, and this turned out I was actually getting married, but I didn't share that with the recruiter because I was not planning on taking any time off. It just so happened that I would be able to work the Monday following the wedding, not a big deal. So I didn't share that information. Well, it turned out the recruiter Googled me and found the Not Wedding website. Okay, so that was a little strange. Not the best practice to be Googling someone. I know some people do that, but you want to use the materials provided. It's kind of unprofessional looking for their Facebook page, social media. It's not really, it kind of skews your bias about that person. Well, anyway, they knew that I was getting married, and the person interviewing me said, well, you only want to do it once, saying, you only want to get married once, you want to get it right, which was completely inappropriate and unprofessional, just assuming, number one, that I've never been married before or that I have any problem. You know, there's divorce in my family, there's divorce in a lot of people's families, and sometimes divorce is the best option. Completely inappropriate discussion for a job interview, and that was a major red flag. And I kind of ignored it. I did end up taking that job. And that gentleman actually made a lot of strange, inappropriate comments about race. And it was not the best environment, to be honest with you. Number 11, gaslighting. So this is a manipulation to create self-doubt and confusion. And I've experienced some gaslighting, for example, when I believe I have a lot of education. I have my PhD, I have a master's and a bachelor's, and also a lot of work experience, about 10 years in HR and in other areas in higher ed. And on the interview, someone said to me, you know, well, you're a little bit less experienced. So they were trying to lowball me on the salary. And that is gaslighting, trying to make you believe something that's not true, diminishing your skills, your experience, and your abilities, and then causing confusion and making you believe that you deserve less than you do, or you are less than you are. All right, last section here, I would like to also note a couple of things. Number one, you want to physically see your workspace if you are going to spend any time in the office or at that space. I learned this the hard way. I accepted a job offer, and then when I actually saw my office, there were stacks and stacks of files and paper all over the office, all over the file cabinets, all over my desk. I have never seen anything like that before. Years and years and years of disorganization, no filing, no compliance or proper compliance. So that to me was a rude awakening. So you definitely want to actually see the space where you will be working if it's not 100% remote. Number two, read the reviews on Glassdoor or Indeed. They can really reveal a lot. Sometimes companies will actually make fake reviews, or they'll ask their employees to write a good review and they'll give them some kind of incentive bonus. So sometimes you can tell when the fake ones are there. They seem kind of generic. But a lot of them are genuine and true from employees, and they can express their experiences, the good, the bad, and the in-between. So you want to take a look at Glassdoor or Indeed, or both. Number three, it's also a good idea to meet the people that you'll be working with, not only to see if you like them, if you get along with them, but also to see their demeanor, their body language. Are they exhausted? Do they seem like they don't want to be there? Do they seem distracted? Do they seem too eager, like they're trying too hard, or just trying to get a sense of what's going on in the culture there? And of course, you'll be with these people maybe 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, so you definitely want to meet them. And lastly, if they extend an offer to you and then they're pressuring you to give them an answer right away or within a day, you really have a couple days or even 3 days. So the maximum is about 3 days to be carefully read that offer letter. You want to identify, exempt versus non-exempt. Does it talk about PTO time? Does it talk about any hybrid or flexible work options? Any of those details, you want to carefully read through it, and you want to talk about it with people you trust, maybe a mentor, your family, loved ones, your partner. You also want to get additional information like benefits information, ask them to send you the prices and the details about coverage, as well as retirement, anything that's meaningful to you, whatever's included in that package. You want to take a good look at that. You don't want any surprises, accepting the offer, starting the job, and then realizing, oh my goodness, this doesn't have what I need, or this is very expensive, or it just doesn't fit my lifestyle. So they should not be rushing you to make that decision. And if they are, it's definitely a red flag. Okay, well, I hope you found this information helpful. If there is anything within here that you want more details about or you would like me to talk more about, please let me know, and I'm happy to make more videos. Thank you so much for your time.